Going to the hurry-up offense.
Yes, welcome to the DDFP. We are going hurry-up. Patrick Claybon, Handsome Hank, ready to break down a gaggle of subjects. Let's start off with this one. Aaron Rodgers, world famous, dates a famous celebrity, and yet was nervous to play golf with the President of the United States, Barack Obama. Patrick Claybon, who would you be nervous to play golf with?
Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
He would make me pretty nervous.
You know, what's interesting, remember about 20 years ago, everybody said, oh, as soon as his basketball career is over, he'll end up on the PGA Tour. That never really happened, did it? Handsome Hank, how say you?
Well, Dave, I don't know if you know this, but I've never actually played golf, so playing against anyone would make me nervous.
Add it to our summer extravaganza of things that we have to do as we continue to kill time until the season starts. By the way, we are going to continue killing time till the season starts with our pal Kyle Long in just a bit. Yeah, I want to go out and play with Handsome Hank, the least British person in history. I thought every Brit played golf. Didn't you think that?
I didn't think that, no.
So no one would. Everybody would make you nervous to.
I mean, I wouldn't be nervous at all. I think it looks like it would be fun. I just would prefer. I like being outside in green spaces. I just don't really enjoy the idea of playing golf.
You versus Black Tie, who I suspect has never played golf either. True, Black Tie? No, he says no. He's raising his hands to say no. Next up, Black Tie's brain is on another sport, the NBA Finals. Anderson Varejao, this is an interesting thing. He started the year with the Cavaliers. Now he's a Warrior. So either way, he's very likely to get a ring should the Cavaliers win. Varejao was a Cav for so long. It's very likely his ex-teammates will say, yeah, give the guy a ring. If that happens, is it morally wrong to accept the ring, Handsome Hank?
Absolutely not, no.
Oh, Claybon, how say you?
In most circumstances, it wouldn't be, but Anderson Varejao is one of the worst basketball players in the NBA.
Yeah, even more reason for him to accept it.
Yeah, maybe. I wouldn't be surprised. LeBron might step up and say, like, hey, I know all you other guys weren't here, but I carried this bum and 10 other guys to the finals not that long ago. He gets no ring. He's already made a fortune thanks to me. Next question, the Pittsburgh Penguins are now up 2-0 in the Stanley Cup final against the Sharks. The score does not reflect, these two scores, does not reflect the dominance of the Pittsburgh Penguins thus far. Saturday night, that gets updated. Game 2 was won on an overtime goal by Connor Sheary. It was a beaut. This brings me to a question, Claybon. What's the most exciting play in NFL football?
The most exciting play in NFL football.
Overtime goals are in hockey are, hard to beat in all of sport.
A Hail Mary. I think you can.
Overtime. We saw it last year twice. Courtesy of Aaron Rodgers.
I don't like that because that's so you guys are both going Hail Mary.
I mean, I think like at the end of a game to win a game like a playoff game,
I'm not
even
as
good as it gets. But a kick return, I love it. I'm a big fan of a kick return. That's why I'm against the NFL. Trying to eliminate kick return. I love a 102-yard kick return.
But what play is more exciting than that moment where there's a gaggle of guys in the end zone standing under the ball? Like, what gets you out of your seat more than that?
I guess it's because of the fluke of it. If it works, it's not a great play. It's it's why I go Santonio Holmes in Super Bowl 43 over David Tyree with the crazy catch that he made because there was a fluke factor to Tyree. I would go Santonio's catches better.
You have like a
fluke factor,
a moral dilemma to determine what's more exciting than something.
Well, without context, or even I've never seen unless I'm mistaken, I've never seen a football game end on a block punt, but that would be pretty good. A block punt that gets scooped up and returned for a touchdown. But regardless of context, that's my winner.
Really?
To me, that's the as good as it gets.
I felt sure you were going to pick a safety. People love safety.
Safeties are great for more reason than one. I've detailed it in the past. I'm going to detail it for you again. It's the exotic nature of the referee side. I love that. I'm bothered. You want me to be bothered, Claybon? All right. You want me to complain? I'm going to. Why do you ever see one of them dictionaries? Those things are fat. They have a lot of words in them. How couldn't they dip into that thing and come up with an extra word for football terminology? There are two things called safety in the same sport. It's unnecessary and confusing if you think about it because, one, a safety. Why is the position? of safety. That makes sense because he's the last line of defense. So that's your safety in case all else breaks down. What is so safe, though, about getting hit by a 300-pound man in your own end zone and having him fall on you? That's the opposite of safe. That's dangerous.
It's as safe as your own end zone can be as a defender to have a safety on the other side.
It's the safest thing that could happen.
You have made your end zone safe by putting the ball down in the other team's end zone.
Or it might,
that's a
it
reach.
might be a throwback.
No, I reject it.
I believe it's a throwback to when the goalposts were in the end zone and they were trying to make the game safer by you. Otherwise, who knows? You may run into the goalpost and badly injure yourself. Instead, you've been hit by a 320-pound man.
It took decades to move those things.
There may be something
I don't
to
know if
that
that's
theory.
true, but that's my theory.
And, well, that reminds me also that I love the idea of us doing that, returning to that. I think that would be great. The only thing I don't understand about when the goalposts did used to be at the goal line, and kids, they did. They weren't at the back of the end zone. In fact, they were right there on the goal line, is wasn't that the easiest way to score a touchdown? All you had to do was line the center up directly across from the goalpost and then snap it to the quarterback who would just reach over and touch the goalpost. Touchdown. How would the defense ever have stopped that?
Well, and also, weren't they doubles rather than singles?
Doubles, yeah.
So there were actually two places that you could essentially pick one of the defensive players.
And speak up, right. How many? Yeah, we used to do that at Shek Memorial Stadium.
Really?
I was the master of that. I lacked foot speed, but I was cagey, you know.
Yeah.
And I would lose defenders.
How many people did you injure?
I ran a lot of people into the bush, and did I feel bad about it? No, I did not. Start the show! Yes, hi and hello, football fans, and welcome to the Dave Damashek football program, presented, as always, by McDonald's all-day breakfast. Go get you some, fill your belly.
Dave just ate a McDonald's in front of us. The reason the show started late, if some of you are watching and are like, why did it not start at the time I was expecting it to, is because Dave was just crushing McDonald's in here.
I think I have a little extra sauce
in
my beard there. So what? I don't care. I play under adverse circumstances. So let's get to it, fellas. We have much to get to. As promised, we're going to kill some time with Kyle Long, our ongoing series of interview or conversations with him. Today we're going to talk about Howie Long v. Jimmy Kimmel. They had a little rift way back when because Howie didn't like Jimmy's jokes, and so we'll get into some of that with him, talk about what kind of pops Howie was, and we have our Game of Thrones. By the way, I keep hearing about this, Handsome. I don't know if people are hitting you up on Twitter, and do hit us up at Damashek, at NFL UK, and our guest today, you see him on NFL Network giving you all the news that's breaking in pro football. Patrick Claybon. What's your Twitter thing? At Patrick Claybon?
It's at Patrick Claybon.
How did you come up with that?
It took me a long time. But
mine is NFL UK Hank. If
NFL
you just do NFL UK, you will get the NFL
UK Hank.
Which teaches you three things about Hank. All you get is my name and my Twitter name.
Yeah, I don't like people who feel like they need to include. My name by myself, I'm not important enough. I'm gonna hide behind the shield. Hey, let's say hello to him now. He's all the way from London, England. He's our resident Miami Dolphins fan. It is Handsome Hank.
Handsome Hank, Handsome Hank. He's handsome Hank, he's handsome Hank, he's handsome Hank.
Hello, Handsome, but before you tell me how you're doing, I want to tell you last week you missed out. We had some good heat in this Studio 66. Greg Rosenthal, the boss from around the NFL, waged verbal war with Ike Taylor and Maurice Jones-Drew, debating the greatness of J.J. Watt. No one really questions that he is great, but exactly how great generationally stacked up with everybody else. I encourage you, Nate, demand you dig that one up. But
Dave,
that
you
shows.
know what? When I'm not here,
Mm-hmm.
I'm always watching and listening.
Is that true?
Yes.
That's touching.
That's really good.
I want you to know, though, then you already know this, you missed out on our big logo show because J.J. Watt got a logo. He got a personal seal. This is a thing that a lot of 21st century athletes are doing. So they went ahead here at NFL Media and made logos for everybody on the show.
I wished I could have got one.
Well, you did. turn over your right shoulder there. If you are watching, if you're listening
Wow.
to us on iTunes or Stitcher or NFL.com/podcast, we appreciate it. If you want to consume the show visually as well, we encourage you, nay, demand you go to YouTube and check that out. And actually also NFL.com/podcast, you can find it. There it is, Handsome. What do you think? H2, over the, what do you call that
We
flag?
call it the Union Jack. Would you
The
like to
Union
know
Jack,
something
right.
interesting about the Union Jack?
Yes.
Always.
Is that it's an amalgam of the 3 flags that make up the United Kingdom.
Oh.
So the British flag is a red cross on a white background.
that's
you can see that in the middle.
right. Yeah,
the Scottish
makes
flag is a blue diagonal kind of thing. And then the Welsh flag is also represented, I think, by the red stripes within there too.
I like that. I like
That's
that
how it's
explanation. What I don't like is what's a bridge too far is when you tried to colonize the big blue marble that like Australia has
to have that.
that
Right.
plus now it's getting to be too much flag for
Well,
my
then you
As
know,
though
like,
it was Hank's decision.
yeah. I'm sorry about that.
pass that back to your
I would
people
say
there. Let 'em
probably
know.
15 years from now they'll replace the stars in the American flag with a Union Jack as well. Once we've finished our work here.
What do you know?
He's on the inside.
Have you let something slip now that you weren't supposed to? There, you guys are still cross
We're
about
still-
what happened.
that's why I'm here.
I would buy Hank's mixtape just looking at that graph.
Would you?
Yeah.
That would do it.
I don't even know the songs. Or I haven't heard
It's
it.
dropping. It's dropping next week.
But having seen that picture, I will buy it.
All right, let's jump. Oh, one thing I wrote down for myself. I was traveling. That's why we only did one show last week. Shout out to my main man Max. He is he's a great fella, and he asked me for a shout out. So there you
it
go,
is.
Max. It's a shout out to you. I'm a big fan of your work. In fact, he hosts a talk show of his own called Taking It to the Max, and I was the first guest ever on it.
Wow.
So we got to do episode
That's
number
quite
2.
an honor for you.
Well, there's only been one episode so far, so it's even better.
Right.
And in fact, he's already promised that I get to be the guest on episode number 2. So I'm looking forward to that. In the meantime, let's get into the show proper here. And speaking of my travels, this is a cynical world. I talk about it all the time. Everybody, whether it's LeBron now, LeBron better win or else he's the most overrated player ever. Everybody has to lead with cynicism. OKC choked. No, Golden State did something sublime. Its 2 greatest stars rose with all the heat on them, and they won. Yeah, OKC didn't play its very best. It's 2 stars. But in the name of not always having to lead with cynicism, I want to point this out. I traveled from L.A. to Philly and then back again, and it reminded me of this. In the last 5 or 10 years, airport food, the quality of it has gone through the roof exponentially, right? Isn't airport food suddenly really good?
Most of the time, yeah.
And I feel like it used to be more expensive. I don't know if that's just because
Yeah.
I'm now.
Yeah.
But it seems like I used to pay like $12 for a sandwich. That same sandwich is now $8 and much better.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. But what's true, every airport seems to have a local popular restaurant,
Right.
and it's pretty good. Anyway, so inspired by that experience, let's start something new here. Shek half full. You know what? I say a lot of things that are Shek that are glass half empty. Let's go glass half full. Patrick Claybon, I start with you. No. I start with you, Handsome Hank, because I have one.
You started with the right person. I try to live my life half full.
I do you really?
Yeah, that's me.
I'm all the way full after I
Okay.
had that.
Yeah, you should
the
be after
McDonald's
your delicious
breakfast.
all-day breakfast.
Now
Cup
listen,
runneth over.
say something nice, Handsome Hank. It's got to be something that's hard to say something nice about. In fact, Adam Carolla does this and has for about a decade now. I want you to say something nice about Joe Philbin, the former head coach of your beloved Miami Dolphins.
Joe Philbin, Dave. I've visited the Miami Dolphins, their location in Davie, South Florida, a couple times. I went there once during the Cam Cameron era, short-lived and not terribly successful. They did win one game that season, and then once during the Tony Sparano era. And I didn't go there during the Philbin era. I want to be clear about that, but I did watch Hard Knocks, which, if you remember, was his rookie season, his debut season as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. And one of the things that was picked up on during that time was that Philbin was meticulous about making sure that the field was not littered with chewing gum and trash. And I had noticed
That's right. He would go
during
through and
Right. During the Cameron and Sperano era, I noticed there was a lot of that type of thing going around. And frankly, I don't like to see people spat out gum on the floor. So although I didn't witness it myself, I believe that what Philbin contributed in the way of like keeping that place tidy was a huge step for the Miami Dolphins.
That is very nice.
Yes.
Dave. That's
Very
a
nice
glass half full way of looking at
Right.
Joe Philbin's tenure down there in South Beach. Patrick Claybon, more generic, but say something nice about Mark Sanchez as the starting quarterback.
Mark Sanchez is experienced.
It's very experienced.
Yeah, but we experienced
He's been
that
to two
too.
AFC championship.
I'm all about being positive right now. And
Uh-huh.
Mark Sanchez, he has faced adversity. He has answered questions, and he is a quarterback that has played football games previously.
I don't, Dave. You know what? I think you picked,
tepid.
you picked exactly the two right people to do this, and I would say that you would struggle to find any topic we could be negative about.
Wow, I feel like that's a challenge.
I do not feel the same way as him.
Who would be the worst at this game that we know?
Staying positive.
Nick Saban. Nick Saban would be bad at this
No,
game.
I think a lot of coaches have a lot of that training to be able to pull something positive out. I mean, that's what they have to do with some bad
Coach
players,
Saban does
right?
it after every single game where they
Right.
play, an opponent that doesn't quite measure up.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but yeah,
They were a great team. They gave us a really stern test on special teams.
as our pal Matt Money Smith often points out, it is very strange that a guy from where Nick Saban hails from suddenly now has a huge Southern drawl. Hey,
Boy, from
our program.
from West Virginia.
Our program, all right, which is close to Pittsburgh. Nobody from that region, I can assure you, talks about program. Hey, this program is really on the rise.
Your Southern accent, Dave, is awful.
Doesn't sound a lot like Nick Saban.
It's not so bad. Do you do a Southern accent,
I do a
Handsome?
very good one.
I'd like to hear.
My
it.
Southern accent is real smooth.
All right,
How's
in
that,
your
Patrick?
Southern accent or in your British accent,
I'll
either way, tell me about Nick Foles, who's now holding out. And I mean, this makes sense, but he is one of those guys out there, and we did touch on it in the episode earlier this week. That for all the talk about the QBs and so this is everybody talks about this. It is a 12-month discussion now rolling about who's elite and otherwise. But isn't it sort of funny that we've now reached properly summertime? And I don't care what anybody says. Memorial Day starts summertime. Isn't it weird that there's so many unsettled situations there? Which is the murkiest now? That we talked about Fitzpatrick and that mess. That thing seems like the
That
wheels are
looks a
coming
little
off
murky.
now.
I would say that the 49ers is a little murky as well.
Who's going to start there?
I think Gabbert will in the end, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Foles. I think the Rams are probably in a decent situation because it's a weird one that he said to Jeff Fisher, I don't know how comfortable I am being here as a backup, and Jeff Fisher went, yeah, I agree, just don't come. Doesn't exactly speak volumes about whether he has a future there. I wouldn't be surprised if Chip Kelly says, look, I don't know whether I want Blaine Gabbert. I'd at least like to have some competition for Blaine Gabbert. Maybe they don't believe that Colin Kaepernick's going to be there past training camp. Maybe Foles either gets cut or they throw a 7th-round pick at the Rams and he goes there.
Well, clearly Goff is going to be the starter.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
Claybon.
no,
is there a
absolutely.
team you can think of that Nick Foles is a better option than any of their current ones?
I don't think so.
No.
As Hank mentioned, Jeff Fisher, we were listening to him yesterday, and he says that, well, yeah, I talked to Nick, and he says that he doesn't feel like if things stay the same, that he'll be here. And then he says that we're on the same page. And so it's like, wait, are you saying that, yeah, man,
Not gonna be here.
You're not going to be here.
Right.
So
So they're
if
just
the
holding.
Ram-
They're just holding out hope that either someone gets injured during training camp and suddenly becomes a more valuable commodity than he is, or a team like the Niners or the Jets decide we need some additional competition for the lackluster guys we've got here. Let's bring them in.
But both Blaine Gabbert and Colin Kaepernick are probably going to start
Oh,
double the games
right.
that Nick Foles does.
Yeah.
In 2016.
Well, I agree. So Foles, yes. I don't think. Although the one place I would point to, or two, Denver. If you don't think Paxton Lynch if you think it's going to put a dent in his psyche to stink for the first month or two, or maybe the whole season.
Mark Sanchez is going to start there.
All right, that's fine. But I don't necessarily assume that Mark Sanchez is better than Nick Foles. Is my point.
He is a quarterback.
And they're both.
He
they're
is
both,
experienced. He has played games.
For what it's worth, Mark Sanchez never had a statistical season like Nick Foles did.
Right.
I disagree with you. I do think Colin Kaepernick will end up winning that gig.
No.
I mean, he's just so tantalizingly talented that when you put them side by side, it feels like a disservice to the team to say, well, yeah, let's roll with the slightly less talented guy. But
I mean, you're right. He puts a lot of zip on every single pass.
yeah, that's what about the brewing situation aside from Fitzpatrick and the Jets and what looks like a looming divorce there, or if it hasn't already kind of happened, is in Philadelphia. I thought we were past the melodrama with Sam Bradford because all the Peterson got up there, he's our guy, and then that's undermined in the last 7 days by the announcement, hey, early on, Carson Wentz a little ahead of Sam Bradford in the here.
And by the way,
now.
you're paying your third-string quarterback more than some starters in the NFL are getting as well.
I know. No one talks about him either. I feel bad for him. But who is going to be the starter week 1, Handsome Hank?
I think it'll be Sam Bradford.
You do?
Sam Bradford. It's Sam Bradford.
I don't
He's
think
going to start.
so.
The head coach says he's going to start. He's the best option, probably. He's not hurt. And so Sam Bradford is the starter.
This is very much like what happened in Seattle, if you think about it. 5 years ago? Was it that long ago? 5 years ago when they drafted Russell Wilson, and they had Matt Flynn, and they liked Tavares Jackson, and they had Tavares can go for us. We're ready with him. It's he knows the system, so he equals Chase Daniel. Sam Bradford equals Matt Flynn. Well, we just spent millions of dollars on this guy. Obviously, he's our starter. And then the rookie, he's going to take some time. We really believe in this guy, but he's going to take some time. Lo and behold, Russell Wilson starts in week 1. That's what's going to happen in Philly. But this is going to be bad because unlike Matt Flynn, who everybody kind of laughed at anyway, getting all those millions, Sam Bradford's going to bellyache, isn't he?
Yeah, but I feel like the comments were more directed at Bradford for what had happened before and him not being around than it is actually Carson Wentz is ahead because Carson Wentz has been there.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens there.
And who made those comments? Who was actually the one that said that Sam Bradford was
I don't know. Look it up. Look it up behind the glass. Who said that out of Philadelphia?
We don't need to look it up. Patrick Claybon knows everything about NFL news. He is NFL
I'm not trying to call him
Am I
out,
throwing
but-
scurrilous rumors around?
No, it's not a scurrilous rumor. There was an NJ.com article where a guy watching practice said, "Hey, Carson Wentz looks pretty good."
Oh, is that what it was? It
I
wasn't
don't think
someone
it's any more than that. It's not like Doug Peterson's come out and said, "Nope, this is it."
All right. Well, we'll see.
He passed the eyeball test.
Hear me now. Again, I will say this. And this was my belly aching as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
Try and keep it half full, Dave.
Well, no, we moved on from
okay.
that. We
Back
keep
to
that.
normal.
It's a nice finite 2-minute
Can
segment.
we give
then
you
get
one
back.
at some point during the show, just as a surprise? Can we make you say something?
Go ahead.
Say something nice about Sam Bradford.
He won the
in
Heisman.
this situation.
Oh, well, I see you didn't clarify.
I just did.
He won a Heisman trophy.
I
That's
just
pretty
did
cool.
clarify.
Say something nice about Sam Bradford. The Eagles, because other teams also have weird and bad quarterback situations, if they strike while the iron's hot, when that is, I'm not sure, because right now Sam Bradford's a guy who belly aches if he is an anointed starter.
You just failed. But
in August, if Sam Bradford, after week 1 in preseason, if he comes out and looks good for a couple of series, then you say, hey, Broncos, hey, Browns, hey, Jets, you need a QB? Because this guy's all right. That's what he is. He's good enough to do that in preseason.
You can't have a caveat in your button.
The nice thing you could say about Sam Bradford is that he might get traded to another team.
Because
he probably has value. He has value.
You're not very good at this, Dave. No. You need to take more lessons.
That's why I'm doing this, because you know what? This show is all about infotainment and a game called life. And am I a master of that game called life? I mean, a lot of people would say yes, but you know what? There's still room for improvement, and that's what I'm striving for. Hey, all right, now let's make our NBA Finals picks here. And before we jump into that, I notice a lot of people, first of all, like we did earlier in the week, talking about legacy and what it means to LeBron's and what it means to Steph's. I don't roll your eyes, because I don't know if you're rolling your eyes at me for doing that, but
the conversation.
Right. There is a large segment, again, cynical, of like people just who are above talking legacies and, oh, who cares? That's a media creation and players don't care. First of all, I do think players care about that. I mean, listen, they have tremendous egos. They just want to control what the narrative is. That doesn't mean they don't care about it. They just don't like when people shoot holes in said legacy. If you don't care about the legacy and narrative, then just sit around and do math, because that's what you've reduced sports to now, is a math equation. That is how it fits into history and how it stacks up with other teams and other individuals, and that is what being a sports fan is. What if otherwise? Look, he threw the most. He did this, and this is his percentage, and you've boiled it down to nonsense.
No, the nonsense is, well, hey, LeBron's going to try harder because his legacy is hanging in the balance. That's stupid.
I didn't say that.
But people do say it. It's like, oh, LeBron doesn't want Steph to take his throne as the face of the NBA. Like, no,
hey, I got
he wants
news
to win
for
a
you.
championship.
WWE, there's an entire billion-dollar operation that exists by parodying essentially what sports are. That's what that is. It's soap opera. It serializes sports. That's what it is.
But it's taken hold, and people expect like a team to be in a situation and start shaking their fist and the crowd chanting, and then they summon this power. It's like, my legacy is in question, and they shoot laser beams.
I don't know what you want me to tell
dumb.
you, but if you think Peyton Manning doesn't care that he won a second Super Bowl because of what it does for his legacy.
But it's not the number one thing in their mind. The number one thing is like, I need to win this game because I'm being paid. That's what I have to do. I'm an athlete.
Hey, the guys in the WWE, their priority is how much money they make, one, and two, how jacked up on roids they can
get.
get.
They're not athletes.
I'm just
entertainers.
My point is, I don't care what their priorities are. We sports fans care about that. That is our role in the conversation, is to cheer and to boo and to put it into context in the history of the game and in the history of all games. If you take that away, like I say, then just leave it to all the stats heads. Just leave it to the people to do the advanced metrics say. That's not nearly as entertaining.
There's room for legacy in the conversation, but LeBron has been playing for his legacy now, like every playoff series for the past 8 years, and it gets to be tiring. Like, when are we going to stop talking about it?
I want to say one more thing about this. And by the way, Emma VP behind the glass, if you have something to say to me, say it on the microphone or don't say it at all.
Shek, I'm sorry. Our Twitter's just blowing up from the show earlier about the top wide receivers, and we had to get to it,
We'll get to it,
Okay.
sister. Cool your jets a second. I have something to say.
Again.
Okay.
Come on, player. What's that? What's up with that?
Yeah, see? That was me telling Dion something a couple of years ago. I pointed this out. Recency bias is a real thing, but also our need to romanticize the past blurs reality. And for everybody, just let me say this again. LeBron James, people who marginalize it, well, the East is terrible, so who cares that he's gotten to 6 straight finals? Go ahead and look up the Showtime Lakers with Magic. Between 1980 and 1987, look at how many bum teams. And you point out to me, circle all the great teams they had to get through in the West in the 80s to get to the finals to play the Celtics every year. It is underwhelming, to say the least. So if you wanna knock LeBron for 6 straight finals because the competition wasn't that great, well, then you have to do the same with Magic, Worthy, Kareem, and the rest of those guys. All right, all that said, Claybon, go ahead.
Dave, Patrick and I said that we would undo one button for each 7-minute monologue you made during this show. So I'm gonna undo
All right, I don't
because
care.
I'm a man of
Make
my
all your
word.
fun of me.
Because I'm a man of my word, I've undone another button. I don't want to have to go too much further though.
All right, that's fine.
Cavs in 6, Dave.
Cavs in
Cavs in
6.
And my Warriors in 7 pick was questioned by a lot of people in
He's got history, is what
Yeah,
he's saying.
because
He was bragging.
the two people that care about things that I say, me and my mother. She kind of wondered about my Warriors in 7 prediction, but it's Cavs in 6.
The two people who care about what I say, me and my mother, Mo Damashek, were very impressed when the Thunder went up 3-1 because, of course, my preseason pick was Cavs over OKC in October. I made that prediction. It didn't come true. Handsome, what's your pick?
Dave, I'm going to drop some basketball knowledge on you. A little bit like Black Tie dropping 3-pointers on Instagram. By the way, if you don't follow him, definitely follow Black Tie on Instagram if you want to watch a man,
Black Tie
alone
posts
in a
videos
gym.
of himself shooting baskets.
Yes, alone in a gym
Ugh.
shooting baskets. It's fascinating.
Or sad.
Did you know that LeBron's been in 6 consecutive NBA Finals?
He did it. Dropping
Did you know that?
knowledge.
That's what I just monologued.
Did you say was that
You were
whole
busy
thing?
unbuttoning
Was
your
that-
shirt.
Was that what that whole
Is
thing
that
was? to
really
say?
what you? Is that really you just slapped me in the face like that?
Was that what you?
You don't even hear a word I say.
Well, it took for so long.
We-
I
we-
didn't.
We hear every one of them, actually.
We hear a lot of them, but I just can't. Sometimes I can't pause them in my brain
It's
enough.
why that frustrates me is that I only have 4 talking points.
Right.
I mean, I have the same 4 jokes and stories that I tell over and over again, and you don't even hear one of them.
I do. I've heard them all. Believe me, Dave. I've heard them all.
What a creep.
I think that LeBron will win this time.
You know what? I'm going to
I
stay
hope
with
he
the
does as
Cavs.
well.
I picked him in the preseason. I hope he wins. Enough. You know what? A story that I'm sick of hearing about is just as I'm tired of, Boston. Just let the Red Sox win so I can stop hearing from their wonderful fans all the time about how great quality of fans they are to stand by their teams. Same here. Let's get done with the Cavs and stop with this Cleveland nonsense. Behind the glass there, Emma VP, who you got?
Warriors.
In?
7.
Black Tie?
Black Tie, what do you got?
He's throwing his hands up. He's going 5.
He's got his own podcast.
Golden
you
State
can, you can
5.
find
Make
it on
it,
the
take
Make
it.
It Take It podcast.
Go listen to
Available
that.
on Stitcher, iTunes, and then NFL.com/Make It Take It.
And someday soon, I'm sure, and someday in the distant future, we will rank Steph Curry and LeBron James and see where they stack up with Michael Jordan and everybody else. Right now, though, what we talked about on the show earlier in the week, and I want to pay off, is who is the second greatest wide receiver of the Super Bowl era? Jerry Rice is number 1. I concluded probably that it's Randy Moss, but at worst is T.O., and he's not in the Hall of Fame. He wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer, which is ludicrous.
That's a joke.
Yeah. In fact, Patrick Claybon, right after that vote, however long ago that was, you were on the show, if memory serves, because I remember connecting with you on how outrageous that was.
That's when this all formed.
Yeah, how outrageous that he was a cancer, except that he took the Eagles to a Super Bowl, and the 49ers were always good, and Dallas was always good, but he was a cancer that had to be purged.
Because everybody in every workplace has to love everybody that they work with.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, you should hear what Handsome has to say about Black Tie behind clothes. No, you don't even do it behind clothes.
I just said it.
We got some feedback from everybody else here. Here's a tweet from Chris Kerr. He says, Moss had 90 touchdowns in 7 years with the Vikes, 47 touchdowns in 3 with New England. Second best ever. Is that right, Patrick Claybon?
It is, and you look at the way that they affect the game. You can play T.O. in a certain way and tackle properly, and if he gets the ball in those situations, there's things you can do. The things Randy Moss could do,
Right.
There really wasn't a counter for it. You had to account for him, and I think that's why if you're picking teams, he goes number 2.
I mean, when you hear corners, you hear Ike talk about what it is to play a corner in the NFL. It's the toughest position maybe in all of sports. You're on an island against someone. I can't imagine how terrifying it would be to be lined up against Randy Moss and no, I could be at the top of my game and I'm still going to get beaten by this guy.
It is. Was it you who raised
Embarrassed,
that last
in
week,
fact.
or earlier this week, that maybe Randy Moss is more dominant at his heights than Jerry Rice at his?
I might have said. I mean, who knows? I don't keep track of what they say.
It's an argument to be made.
I feel better about you not listening to me if you don't even listen to yourself. So
It's an argument to be made, I think. I mean, of course,
It sounds
age
it
is
sounds good, so I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel Jeremiah does that on Move the Sticks, and Bucky Brooks weighed in on this with us the other day too. And they like to do who would you want for one play, one game, one season. For one play at minimum, Randy Moss over Jerry Rice, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's preposterous to say, and it's almost sacrilege, but that's what I see.
Maybe even for one series, I would take Randy Moss, because if you're looking
Series
for a
might
home
only
run.
be one play anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, the second play Randy may take off, but you're going to get Jerry.
People forget and it does distract you because T.O.'s histrionics off the field, and maybe the same is true for Randy Moss. It has obscured Randy Moss in his rookie season. You were over in the UK, Handsome.
Oh yeah, I'm totally aware of.
It was every week.
Yeah.
It was just they would just throw jump balls, and he would go up and get them every week in double or even triple coverage. And it was every week he would do it. It would seem once to 3 times, no matter who they were playing.
And that team as well, the Vikings, they'd gone through a long period of not being particularly exciting for any reason. Like they were a team that hadn't really had a huge super. I think Robert Smith had been around for a while, but they hadn't had like a huge superstar. And suddenly the Vikings went from being a team that you're a bit like, whatever. But they're suddenly like, I want to watch that team. I want to watch them play.
Yeah, that was something seeing, Dante Culpepper, that super thick trunk that he had, and just heaving those 75-yard bombs, and at the other end, 84 going up and getting it. And you're right about Robert Smith, too. History has forgotten him.
He's a good player.
A little bit too much. He cut a distinctive figure for a running back, too. He was super wiry for an NFL runner. Emma VP, read the next one for us, would you?
The next one has a good point. He says that by talent, Moss, by numbers, T.O.
Yes, and I discussed T.O. and the fact that he belongs, and that's Rolo Pickens who sends us that one. Emma VP edited a little thing that's playing on Thursdays, Total Access. She really wanted it to
big time, Emma.
She really wanted it to be shown, not just on NFL Network, but here on the DDFP. Let the baby have her bottle. Go ahead and show Terrell Owens and why he should already be in the Hall of Fame, and he better get in the next possible chance the voters get.
Hi and hello, football fans. Dave Damashek here. Let's talk voting. No, not presidential stuff. I'm talking about the Hall of Fame. Terrell Owens is a Hall of Famer, whether the Hall of Fame voters say he is or not. Matter of fact, T.O. is in the conversation for best wide receiver of the Super Bowl era. That's right, I said it. And before you call me crazy, I'd love to hear your top 5. Except I can't, because we're not on Skype. And sure, the popcorn and the pen in the sock, and that's my quarterback, were odd, but they shouldn't obscure the need to give T.O. a gold jacket. In fact, if voters were so bothered by the shirtless sit-ups, you'd think they'd want to cover him up. Jerry Rice is definitely the number 1 wideout ever, and if you don't think so, go sit in the corner till you do. The real question, though, is who's the second best? Surely the last half-century has yielded a gaggle of high-end possibilities, right? Well, wrong. Come on down from Mount Pius, Hall of Fame voters, and consider the options. There really aren't that many contenders. Calvin Johnson sure looked like he had a chance to be the best, but how many times was he actually the best in any given season? Rhetorical question. 1. The answer is 1. 2012. Okay, maybe 2011, but still. And maybe you're thinking, but Dave, I can make an argument for Marvin Harrison. Well, sure, you can make an argument for anything. The trick is making a meaningful argument. Also, why do you talk in that weird voice? It's unbecoming. By the way, Harrison also played more than half his games in a climate-controlled dome. Do it in the muck and/or mire, and then we'll talk. And there's Steve Largent, Larry Fitzgerald, Chris Carter, Michael Irvin. Okay, but even adjusted for generational differences, the numbers just aren't on their side. Of the current NFLers, a verifiable golden age for pass catchers, Des Bryant, Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, and Odell Beckham are stating their cases, but for now, they get a collective TBD. And then there's Randy Moss, who's at worst 3 on my list. But T.O. is second all-time in yards, 6th in receptions, and 3rd in receiving touchdowns, exactly 1 behind the aforementioned Moss. Well, I don't think there's any call for that, Randy. Point is, T.O.'s not a Hall of Famer right now because voters think he was childish. So in other words, they're being childish. Ironic, huh? Either way, the next chance you voters get, you need to write his name down. Look, he already showed you how.
Good work there, Emma VP.
That's
very
excellent.
nice.
Well done.
And what do you think about that assertion? Is that, I have it right, Moss, then T.O.?
I think the only thing that keeps T.O. out of the Hall of Fame next year is if he decides to play again, and I know that's a possibility.
Don't indulge that topic.
Conceivably, they could keep him out again. The same childish reasons that they used this year, they could use next year.
It's absurd. Are we forgetting anybody else there? Did I mention anybody we need to bump
pretty
in
much.
there?
I think between what we talked about on Tuesday and that list, I think we got pretty much everyone.
Hialeah Gringo. I'll read it there, Emma.
Let me ask you a quick question about it, though. If you had to pick one right now, because I know you love speculation. If you had to pick one of the current guys who you think will wind up as 2 or 3, What's your heart tell you? Not your heart, because I know that your heart tells you Antonio Brown. But what's your hunch?
Well, Julio Jones is deep enough, and so is Dez Bryant into their respective careers that I don't know. I mean, maybe if Dez has a special January run, that he could be a part of that conversation. He really is the physically most unstoppable guy.
Right.
You know, you can do whatever you want, and he's still going to be able to go up and get it. And let's keep in mind that he has suffered for the majority of his career, aside from 2 years ago with DeMarco Murray's breakout. Jason Witten's a nice safety valve, but there isn't another guy. I mean, Terrence Williams has very quietly been sort of a flameout on those Cowboys, in my opinion. If they would ever give him another option on the other side, he might really, really blow up. It boils down to Odell Beckham.
Right.
And that's a little gray because Odell Beckham's going to be playing for quite a while after Eli goes.
That's the big question.
Antonio Brown's pretty far into his career at this point, too. What is he, 6 years into his career? If he has one more year, if he puts up, let's say, 110 in receptions and, 1,810 touchdowns this year, which is doable, his 4-year run stacks up with anybody in history or maybe even transcends it. He's the guy. I know he doesn't cut the figure that those other guys do. Every other guy, Dez Bryant, Julio Jones, Calvin Johnson's a monster. Jerry Rice, I guess, wasn't a big guy, but T.O. and Randy Moss. I know Antonio Brown is underwhelming to look at, but the numbers are beyond argument, I feel.
Can I add one name to the list? Actually, now that you think about it, Steve Smith. Well, I don't think he's a number 2 or 3.
Definite Hall of Famer.
But he's definitely a Hall of Famer in my opinion, and he should be in that conversation alongside a lot of those others.
You're right. Put him at number 9 on our list there. Yeah.
For speaking of number 2 for the second show in a row, Dave, I've got to make a run to the news.
No.
I'm sorry.
To do what?
We have to update the news, Dave.
Dave, he is the news. The news in the NFL doesn't happen without Patrick Claybon.
That's got to be a new game we play. Is how long will it take before Patrick Claybon has to leave? You don't want to.
Maybe you should have taken less time with your.
I'm looking at the rest of the DDFP rundown, and I'm angry at the situation. But
how many minutes do you have? He's checking his cell phone, listeners.
3.
3 minutes.
We're not going to get through all that in 3 minutes. Now, what we could do is hope that Patrick makes it back for the big Game of Thrones fantasy
I will try.
review /
preview. Can we try to do
Let's
that?
You know what?
Are you guys?
There's much else to do here, but call it a day.
Thank you, Don Draper. Go ahead, Claybon. What do you want to do behind the glass now? You want to kill a little bit of time, not just until the season starts, but until
Dave,
Patrick
do you have a
Claybon
12-minute
comes back?
monologue in you?
Well, I do. I always have several of those ready to go if we absolutely positively need them. Or can we do the game show right now? Our little head-to-head. Oh, there it is. I guess there's our answer.
And here we go again. Surprise game show for the guys here. Our today's topic. So, this weekend, a lot of stuff going on in the Bay Area. We've got the finals. We've got the Stanley Cup finals. Some soccer being played. Some guy named Trump speaking. But just staying in that Bay Area, there's been 36 pro Hall of Famers that have played for either the Raiders or the Niners in the Super Bowl era.
Ooh.
Now, this does not include the
36.
owners or coaches. So there's quite a few here.
36. Wow, that's crazy, isn't it? That seems like an awful lot for 2 teams. Shout out, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Golden State is a great name or is a great, what do you call that, region or name of
It's a great, it's
locale
a good
name, not the nickname, but Golden State. I like New England quite a bit. I think that's because it includes the whole region.
I get it.
I think that's kind of neat.
They didn't try to go with the Angels, the whole Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
I thought the Rams should have gone with California Rams. I thought that would have been – or no. Actually, no. L.A. Rams is right, but if the Chargers move to L.A., they should be the California Chargers and include all of the state. All right, I bought us both a little bit of time.
Thanks,
Handsome,
Dave.
You may go first.
I'll take Joe Montana. Let's just get him off the list.
All right, I'll go Steve Young.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go Jerry Rice.
I'll go Charles Haley.
Okay. I'm going to go Ray Guy.
Nice. I'll go Ronnie Lott.
I'm going to go Mike Haynes.
Well, he's the subject of our Killin Time in just a couple of minutes. Howie Long.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to go...
By the way, I'm completely out now.
I know, me too.
How could this be?
I
got a couple. Okay.
I'm gonna go Tim Brown.
Nice. Gene Upshaw.
I'm gonna go Marcus Allen.
Very good. It's a strong one. Buying time now. Trying to think about it. They only had to have played there, right? They only have one
Correct.
season is enough?
Yep.
Rod Woodson.
Jim Otto.
You just took my answer there.
I didn't take your answer. I wrote it down. It's my answer.
Is this guy in the Hall of Fame? I shouldn't need to dip already into this one. I have a couple ones that I'm on the fence on now that they're stuck in my head. I feel obliged to throw them out here. I'm going to go Fred Dean. Oh,
Art Shell.
good. I'm also not positive about this guy, but I'm pretty sure Ted Hendricks is in the Hall of Fame.
He is. He was my next one. I
Black Tie just said into my ear, "Get the energy up." I'm thinking, Black Tie. This is a thinking
high
game.
energy and think, Black Tie.
Keep your energy up.
It's never thought. So
How about you
no,
try to put a little, fill up your glass a little bit to halfway?
Okay, this guy. I don't know why I'm blanking on the name. He played for the Bears as a defensive end, and then went and played for the 49ers. One of the Bears Super Bowl 20 winners.
Oh, I know who that is.
Well,
Not
can
only
you tell
that,
me? That
not only that, he won the MVP in Super
I know
Bowl
he did.
20.
Richard Dent.
Jerk. I was ready to take that one from you. Boy, oh boy, those Niners teams, shouldn't they be jumping into my head here?
See, Roger Craig should be in the Hall of Fame, but he's not.
Yeah, he definitely should be. You're right about him. He should be in the Hall of Fame.
Just throw that one out there to confuse you.
Johnson. John Henry. That's correct. What do you mean, no?
Yes!
No.
Dave's first ever loss. in
Wait
the
a
game
second.
He invented.
Who went first?
Our official judge, Ken
I
Brown,
went first.
that was pre-Super Bowl. So this is
Oh, that stinks. I didn't even hear about Super Bowl crap. That you're going to take that victory? You feel good about that?
Yeah, I do.
I went deep into the annals.
Dave,
Boo!
sometimes you need to be a good loser.
Boo! Dave Casper.
Should have said it earlier.
That's Dave. I want my ding.
You can have a ding. You don't get a win.
Wait a second. We also forgot Snake Stabler.
That should have been the next one.
Boo! Who else? There seems like there must be a lot we missed,
There's
right?
some obvious ones we missed.
It's going to be
all right,
embarrassing.
so just running
There's
down
another
the list
Niners
here.
running back.
Let's see, running down the list here, we
Now,
got Larry
Wendell
Allen,
Tyler.
Fred Biletnikoff,
Ooh,
Larry Allen. Oh, yeah, Biletnikoff, of course.
George Blanda.
Blanda.
Okay.
Should have got Blanda.
We got Eric Dickerson, played
Yep.
for the Raiders
Dickerson
one
played
season.
for the Raiders, didn't he?
Chris Dolman,
Okay,
Kevin Green got a season with the Niners.
Yep.
got that.
Bob Hayes,
Mm-hmm.
Ricky Jackson.
Bob Hayes
Bob
played
Hayes.
with whom? Which one of the two?
Bob Hayes was with the Niners in '75.
Huh.
Then we got Ricky Jackson,
Okay. That's,
Jimmy Johnson, James Lofton came in with the Raiders.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Ron Mix, big tackle, 71 team. Primetime, forgot Dion.
God, of course.
Ah, that's embarrassing. No
That
one
is
tell
embarrassing.
Dion. I'm bummed that Claybon missed this. See, we should have done
Hey,
with
Patrick,
the Kyle Long.
While you were away, I just won a surprise game show against Dave.
I
He's being a sore
dispute it.
loser about it as well.
I
You
dispute
dispute it. How do you dispute it? The
because I
rules
didn't
are
hear.
very clear.
Turn Claybon's microphone back on, please. How
How do you? There's nothing to dispute. We went back and forth. You ran out of names before I ran out of names. That's a W.
Yeah,
do we have another one we could do?
Hank makes a compelling argument.
That's it. Hank's champion.
No,
today.
I'm a champion for today. Don't just say well done, utter the words, "Well done, Hank. I didn't see that coming," and let's move on.
I didn't see it coming, that's for sure.
I know you didn't. That's
You know what
because you're
else?
arrogant.
Another one of my senses wasn't working. I didn't hear the little caveat. Why did it have to be Super Bowl air? We're talking Hall of Fame. Now we have to boil it down.
It's not like you had another name out there. You had filibustered for 3 minutes.
I
thinking about
said
a name.
John Henry Johnson. What are you talking about?
Well, but it wasn't right, and that was the end, and that's where it ended. And it's not.
But
like you
it
had another
was.
name in the head.
I'm outraged by this. This one is under protest. Hear me now, believe me later. Game of Thrones talk coming up, but right now, as we promised, Howie Long, the aforementioned one, is going to be discussed again now, and we get into what Kimmel thought. I can tell you this about what I talked to the great Bears lineman today about is Kimmel, you'll recall maybe, on the old Fox pregame show used to do game picks. He would do a little 3 or 4 minute segment. I was in 1 or 2 of those. I think I know I was in 1. I don't remember if I was in a second one. I wrote 1 or 2 of them. And they were well received, and of course launched Frank Caliendo and Rob Riggle does them now. And Howie Long did not like them because Jimmy would make fun of Howie Long in those. Terry Bradshaw would laugh about it. And who else? I'm trying to think of who else thought they were okay. Howie apparently did not like them to the extent that he let Fox know I don't want this Kimmel in the same room with him. There were some threats of violence insinuated at least. And around all this, Kimmel then gets Jimmy Kimmel Live. And so he's leaving, and he has one last game pick. It was the Patriots versus the Rams, and so he stuck his neck out. I'm leaving forever anyway. I'll take the Patriots, and so he gets that one right. But amidst all that in that week in New Orleans, it was sort of legitimately like, we better not run into Howie Long while we're down here because I might get murdered.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know if that was overstated, so I asked Kyle Long about that on this edition of Killing Time Until the Season Starts.
In your house, was Howie Long a super cool guy?
I mean,
in figure. I don't mean was he cool to you.
It didn't occur to me. Yeah, my dad was the coolest guy in the world, but it didn't even occur to me that he was like a football legend. I just always knew him as an analyst. I'd see him on Sunday on TV. Me and my friends would be like, "Oh, your dad's on TV." I'd be like, that's nothing." But my dad was the best batting practice pitcher in Little League. He was around all the guys, hanging out, super cool. Had a unique sense of humor where he was very serious, but he'd slip jokes and like complete dad jokes in there sometimes. And we'd be like, "Oh, this guy's funny too."
Is what happened, this is now 15 years in the rearview mirror, but I used to work for Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel used to do the picks on the Fox pregame with your old man. Mm-hmm. Your old man, allegedly, according to Jimmy Kimmel, did not like, Howie did not like Jimmy. True or false?
I mean, I don't know. I was never there, and it's something that my dad doesn't talk about. It's not like we sit around the Christmas table, the Christmas dinner table.
Don't say that name in my midst.
Do not talk about Jimmy Kimmel.
We only talk about Fallon and Coney.
I know how talented Jimmy is, and he's done super.
You don't have to make peace.
We were talking about this before the show. I'm a big Jimmy Kimmel fan. I love the bits he does where he asks people about the Super Bowl, and it's like, the game hasn't happened yet. Like I die laughing at those. I share all those on social media, but I would say that he knows how talented these guys are. Rob Riggle, Frank Caliendo, Jimmy Kimmel, but they're different. It's like it would be like a first baseman hanging out with the pitchers. Like they're just different guys.
So Howie didn't. What is this about, Handsome? And
we had to go another button. I'm sorry. You did it. Leading into this, there was a 7-minute monologue again.
I had to give the background.
And it was a good story.
It was a great story. I don't mind, but we're men of our words. Also, guys who like to be half full at all times. And so this is what we're doing.
All right. Well, I'll encourage you, demand that you button up here because winter is coming for men.
Winter's coming.
And that brings us to A little belatedly this week, it is time for our Game of Thrones review, preview, discussion of our internal fantasy league here. Joined now by Handsome Hank, Hodge, son of the Harpy. I am Dave Damastark, and Patrick. Wait, what do we have for him?
Rickon.
Yeah.
Very good.
Patrickon Claybon.
Baby Stark.
I kind of like that. That's
good
kind of good.
I'm the puppy.
All right, let's review as much as you can recall what we saw in the most recent episode. Let's start off with. Oh, do you want us to talk about the fantasy update? Here we go. We'll start with that, and then we'll get into what happened on that show. Our fantasy rules are these. The most the thing you can really do is get the kills. That's what you're
you
gonna
really
get.
want.
That's what happens the most on the show.
Love is also good.
Why did anybody get points for Cersei and Jaime making out the way they did? Because I think we can assume that led to a betting.
Look, Game of Thrones is not shy about showing,
Great point.
Nudity.
If they'd have
No.
wanted us to
I
see
mean,
that-
love.
if they'd wanted love, actual love,
The practice of
The
love.
practice of-
the expression of love.
the free expression of love,
So you say no points for that then.
and I don't think it can be hinted at.
Here's the other question that emerged from last week fantasy-wise. Should points have been given to whoever has Jaime Lannister, and that is not me. I don't remember who has Jaime in our league. It's Maurice Jones-Drew, Ike, Taylor.
I don't believe anyone has him.
No, you're right, Hank. Jaime Lannister's on the free agent
Went undrafted.
list in our league.
No one has Jaime
Well,
Lannister?
he was a top tier. I mean, he's a top tier guy.
Whoa. Well, he did. We saw him kill the Mad King because Bran, with his visions, now he's the three-eyed raven, that with that among his visions that he had, past and future,
It's
one
a
of them was
difficult one.
Jaime killing the Mad King. Do you deserve points
For
a
a vision. of
because
the
Bran, we're going to start seeing now
Yeah.
Bran killing, or Bran's
what-
going to have visions
But
of the
what
past.
if? Yeah, but I don't know. That could. I mean,
It's-
if we're seeing the kill for the first time, yes. But if we keep seeing repeats of
No, you don't get it each
you don't
time.
get it.
You should get the kill. It's an on-screen kill.
Yeah, it's an on-screen.
It's probably one of the most important
Yeah.
kills in the
Okay.
history of the
And
Make
it's
a
the
note of
first
that
time-
behind the
and
glass,
It's the first time
everybody.
we've seen it.
Okay, now let's get the updated fantasy scoring here. Damashek, last we looked at it, was in last place. I still am.
is.
Wait a second. Why do I have -5 still? I thought we addressed
No,
that.
we didn't. And look, I'm not going to get into this here. I don't care about the legal precedent that was set by some, trying to apply American laws to Westeros, which clearly, people go around stabbing each other with swords at all times, and there doesn't appear to be any consequences.
We brought in an objective third party
From the
legal
U.S. From
consultant.
the U.S. Get me a Westerosian legal consultant, and I'll be with you. But I don't think you know any.
He'd even take a blood rider, or
Wait a
maybe
second.
Bring me a white
Claybon,
walker.
you have no horse in this race, all right?
correct.
What do you think about what happened 3 episodes ago?
Oh, we're going back.
Yes. Daenerys pushes the fire over and burns the Dothraki guys to
Drafted Daenerys.
death. And
Good pick.
her 2 allies, Dario and the guy with the scales, they barred the door so they
It's
couldn't
assumed.
get out.
We didn't even see them do that.
The
But yeah,
three
it's
of them in a joint venture murder about 12 Dothraki.
Right.
And so everybody gets kills for that. Yes? I mean, didn't everybody kill them?
No, because then we just talked about Jaime. Let's say Jaime's going to this siege situation
Right.
to try to get the Blackfish to come out. Let's say that he is acting as the blockade, keeping people to get out. Hypothetically, people get in there and kill. Are we also going to give Jaime those kills? I don't think we are. Daenerys was the action that caused.
This is my
those people to
Westerosian
die.
lawyer.
She set fire to a room. And they made it so that you couldn't
But
leave
you
that
didn't
room.
even
But
see him.
they-
That's
the o-
murder.
the only-
They all have
The only reason the plan
charred blood on their hands.
the only reason the plan works is because she can't
Right.
die in the fight.
What if she'd let? What if she'd I don't have the guts to do this.
Boo! I don't
over.
like this. This
another
stinks.
proof of you being a sore loser. Today's been quite eye-opening for me, Dave. I can tell you.
All right, let's talk about Arya. That's the storyline that jumped out at me. Claybon, Arya, as I guess we could have suspected, at the last moment she was assigned to murder by the Faceless Men. That's what they're called, right? The Faceless Men, the men without faces, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What's that guy's name? Jaqen? And then he's got the waif.
Jacqueline,
The
The
girl
waif is the girl.
is the girl.
She's a little bloodthirsty.
I don't care for her waif at all.
Yeah, I don't think
She wants to kill Arya because Arya at the last second decided against murder, slapped the poison drink from her would-be target's hand and spared her life. Now Arya's on the run. She took the needle, her little sword, out from where she had hidden it and left the place where all those faces are. What do you think's going to happen? Is Arya in some trouble now?
No, Arya's in almost the same situation she was in. The people of the many-faced god are going to come after her. Arya has Needle now, and she has the skills. And to be honest, the whole point of her acquiring those skills was to get revenge. And she would have to quit being her in order to get the skills.
Right.
So she finally realized that if I'm going to do the things that I want to do, I can't submit myself 100% to this weird cult thing.
Well, that Handsome and I, we talked about that. Why did she want to be in this dumb fraternity anyway? They had the worst hazing rituals I've ever seen.
They really did.
To kill people. She wants to kill people.
And get whacked by sticks. The thing is, though,
How
the
does this
other girl.
resolve?
Well, the waif is clearly a stick master. She's a good stick fighter. I don't know if does that have an official name? Stick fighting.
I don't know. One of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is
Right.
pretty proficient with that
The
too.
one with the
Donatello.
orange mask.
Yeah.
But now that she's got the if you remember way back, season 1, season 2, she's pretty accomplished as a swordswoman as well.
Yeah, but
so-
the waif though with that stick. Remember, Arya had the stick, and the waif girl had nothing, and the waif still embarrassed her in hand-to-hand combat. She whipped her. So
She was
even
blind
The
for a lot of
needle
it.
doesn't. The needle is not like it doesn't have magic to it the way the
Right, but a sword is better than a stick.
But the issue here is the waif, much like Arya, has allowed her personal desires to overtake.
Yes.
And so she is going to be conflicted in the head, and as John told Arya a long time ago, she's going to stick her with the pointy end.
That's very interesting. You know what I think, too, is so the waif, what she also has on her side is that she can take any of those faces, right? So Arya will never see her coming. Every scene that we see with Arya until at least the waif is dead, we're going to have to be worried for Arya, except that she now knows how to fight in the dark. So won't she want to then that's how she'll
She
win.
very purposefully blew out the candle in the cavern that she wound up in at the end of that episode. Suddenly it was all
Oh,
dark.
yeah.
Very
So the
nice.
waif, it doesn't matter what the waif looks like. If anyone walks into that room, Arya's going to stick her.
She's now comfortable in darkness,
darkness.
and that's the edge that she will ultimately
does.
have on
The
the waif.
darkness is her ally.
The other thing, real quick, that jumped out. This was a setup episode for what's going to be this week and next week. But Handsome Hank, what did you make of Tarly, the fat guy?
The Tarly family, I thought that they seemed like a charming family with the exception of the father. I think in terms of, and we've all, I'm sure, been there, in terms of bringing a girlfriend, whatever, home to meet your family, that went as badly as it can go. The father was not welcoming at all. And, I mean, look, I'm not the biggest fan of that whole plot line, to be quite honest with you, and I'm sure that somewhere along the way Sam is going to play a pretty significant role in how everything falls out. But up until now, I've found him the whole thing's a little bit tiresome.
I don't like the way how he sort of goofs his way into
Right.
victory over people that would be able to kill him in 99 out of 100
He's
times.
sort of the comic relief in this thing, and
Yet he's
I don't-
killed a White Walker already, so he's got that going for him.
But the sword that he made off with, I mean, the whole point of that whole scene and setup is he's made off with a pretty valuable bit of armory.
And now he has a Valerian steel
Yeah.
sword that can kill White Walkers,
Right.
much like he has. We knew that his father was going to have to be a total jerk. I didn't know that he was going to be that
much of a jerk.
I mean, you really you mix it in with 21st century America. Like, what child wouldn't be like, "What? I killed a White Walker. What else can I do for you, old man, to impress you? You're not impressed by that?"
Have you ever had a bad experience like that with bringing someone home? I once went to the house of a girl that I was at that time seeing, and I thought it all had gone pretty well. And in fact, I was I think I stayed and I wrote a quick thank you note, and I said, "Thank you for." I can't remember how it phrased, but I accidentally wrote, "Thank you for letting me have the girl's name.
Oh.
Rather than that or I'm looking for that's right. I'm looking forward to having her rather than having her to stay.
I'm looking forward to having Mary.
Yes. And that was that.
Oh,
that
it's going to be
that,
Mary.
That
right.
didn't go down very well.
Yeah, that's on you.
It didn't go down very well. Listen, quit while you're behind, Handsome. You keep messing up your turns of phrase there. So Tarly now has that sword, which means he's going to end up killing more White Walkers. Does undermine.
I don't think he is. I think he'll hand it off to someone who is more capable of killing.
What he's going to do is, here's a prediction, he's going to have to kill his brother, and that will make him bad, because everybody, including the Starks, is now pretty much, no one is clean. Everybody has done bad things except for Tarly, and I think to include him into the group that no one is pure. Tarly's going to kill his brother because his brother's going to chase him. His old man's going to say, go get my sword.
It's possible.
His brother's going to Tarly, and then that'll be the moral conundrum that he must confront. All right, that's it. Follow us at Twitter. You had something to say?
I just wanted to celebrate the fact that I beat you in 2 different games today.
That stinks. I deserve my Game of Thrones points, and I deserve a rematch. John Henry Johnson's in the Hall of Fame. All right,
Not in the
Patrick
Super Bowl,
Claybon, a delight as always.
Thanks.
Handsome Hank, to you. We'll talk to you later. We'll talk to you on the other side of Game of Thrones. Update you on the finals, NFL news, so on and so forth. In the meantime, thanks so much, football fans. It's been a thin slice of heaven.
Another L.